The old wooden box was never meant to be opened. It sat quietly on the top shelf of our bedroom closet for years, collecting dust while life rushed past us. I only reached for it because we were cleaning the house on a bright Saturday morning, with sunlight pouring through the windows and birds singing outside. I thought it held old bills or forgotten photographs. Instead, hidden beneath a faded blue scarf, I found a small leather diary with my wife's name, carefully written on the first page. What I read inside shattered everything I believed about our marriage, not because she had betrayed me, but because I realized I had unknowingly broken the heart of the woman who had spent every day trying to protect mine. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Lifeline Vibes. Your support helps us continue bringing emotional stories that remind us what truly matters in life. My name is Callan Mercer, and for nearly 14 years, I believed I was a good husband. I worked hard, paid every bill on time, remembered birthdays most of the time, and never missed our wedding anniversary. I thought love was measured by responsibility. My wife, Mireia, never complained. She smiled every morning as she watered the flowers outside our little white house. She packed my lunch before I left for work, always slipping in a handwritten note with a smiley face or a simple reminder to enjoy my day. I smiled at those notes but rarely thought much about them. Looking back now, I realize those tiny notes were her quiet attempts to keep our connection alive while I slowly drifted further into the endless demands of my career. The diary wasn't locked. I hesitated before opening it because it felt wrong to invade her privacy. But curiosity won. The first few pages were ordinary, filled with grocery lists, gardening ideas, and memories from our honeymoon. Then the writing changed. The words became heavier, almost as if each sentence carried tears that had dried long before the ink did. She wrote about waiting every evening by the living room window, hoping I would come home before dinner grew cold. She described pretending not to mind when I canceled weekend trips because another work project demanded my attention. She admitted she celebrated my promotions alone because I was always too exhausted to notice her happiness. What hurt the most was one sentence, written in careful handwriting, that seemed to tremble across the page. She wrote that she missed the man who once danced with her in the kitchen while breakfast burned on the stove. She wondered if he still existed somewhere beneath the tired businessman. Every page pulled me deeper into emotions I had never imagined she carried. She never accused me of being cruel. She never called me selfish. Instead, she blamed herself for asking too little, hoping too much, and convincing herself that tomorrow would always be different. As I continued reading, sunlight filled the room, but inside me everything felt darker. I remembered the countless mornings I rushed past her goodbye kisses because I was late for meetings. I remembered scrolling through emails during dinner while she quietly talked about her day. I remembered buying expensive gifts instead of giving my time, believing that comfort could replace companionship. The diary forced me to see memories from her perspective instead of my own. Then I reached an entry dated almost 2 years earlier. She described visiting the hospital alone after finding a small lump during a routine checkup. She wrote about sitting in the waiting room, surrounded by strangers while desperately wishing I had answered my phone. She explained that the doctors later confirmed it wasn't cancer, only a harmless growth. But she confessed that during those terrifying hours she had never felt so lonely. She wrote that she almost called me again, but remembered how stressed I sounded that morning before deciding not to interrupt another important meeting. I stopped reading. The room suddenly felt too small. My hands trembled as I held the diary. I remembered that week perfectly. I had celebrated closing the biggest business deal of my career. My coworkers had congratulated me, and I proudly told everyone my family understood the sacrifices success required. I had no idea my wife was sitting alone in a hospital praying she would survive. Guilt settled over me like a heavy storm cloud. I closed the diary and looked around our home with completely different eyes. Every picture on the wall suddenly told another story. Every piece of furniture reminded me of the countless hours Mireia spent making our house feel warm while I treated it like nothing more than a place to sleep between work days. She returned home carrying grocery bags just as I placed the diary back inside the box. Her smile appeared exactly as it always had, gentle and welcoming. She asked if I needed help cleaning the closet before walking into the kitchen to prepare lunch. I watched her move around the house with the same quiet grace I had stopped noticing years ago. She hummed softly while arranging fresh fruit in a bowl, opened the windows to let in the summer breeze, and carefully straightened the family photographs sitting on the shelves. Nothing about her behavior suggested resentment. She had carried all that silent sadness while continuing to love me every single day. That realization hurt more than anger ever could. For the rest of the afternoon, I couldn't focus. Every smile she gave me felt like forgiveness I hadn't earned. That night, after she had fallen asleep, I sat alone on the back porch. Fireflies floated across the yard while warm, evening air carried the scent of jasmine from her garden. I thought about the version of myself I had become. Somewhere along the way, I confused providing for my family with being present for them. I convinced myself that love could wait until retirement, until promotions slowed down, until life became easier. But life never became easier. It simply kept moving while the moments that mattered quietly disappeared forever. The next morning, I made my first real change. Instead of checking work emails, I made breakfast. The pancakes came out uneven and slightly burned around the edges. But Mireya laughed for the first time in weeks as we ate together on the porch. I noticed how beautiful the morning sunlight looked in her eyes. I couldn't remember the last time I had truly looked at her without thinking about deadlines. Over the following weeks, I began leaving work earlier. At first, it felt impossible. My phone constantly buzzed with messages, but I started ignoring them after office hours. I walked with Mireya through the neighborhood every evening. We visited local parks, explored farmers markets, and sat beneath old oak trees, sharing ice cream like teenagers again. Little by little, something inside both of us began healing. One afternoon, we visited a small bookstore downtown. While she browsed the gardening section, I quietly purchased a brand new leather journal. When we returned home, I placed it beside her favorite reading chair with a handwritten letter tucked inside. I didn't mention the hidden diary. Instead, I wrote everything I should have said years ago. I thanked her for carrying our family through difficult seasons without asking for recognition. I apologized for measuring success in promotions instead of shared memories. I admitted that I had forgotten. Love wasn't something you proved once on your wedding day. It was something you chose every ordinary morning. When she found the journal later that evening, tears filled her eyes before she even finished reading the first page. She walked onto the porch where I sat watching the sunset. Without saying a word, she simply wrapped her arms around me. Sometimes forgiveness doesn't arrive with dramatic speeches. Sometimes it arrives with silence, understanding, and the courage to begin again. Life slowly became different after that day. We planted a vegetable garden together. We cooked meals side by side instead of eating separately. I learned the names of her favorite flowers and discovered she loved watching clouds drift across bright afternoon skies. We laughed more often. We argued less. Even ordinary days felt extraordinary because we were finally living them together instead of merely existing in the same house. Months later, while organizing old papers, Mireya found the diary missing from its original hiding place. She looked at me quietly, then smiled with gentle understanding. She never asked whether I had read it. I never admitted it aloud. Somehow we both knew. The diary had served its purpose. It hadn't destroyed our marriage. It had saved it. Years passed and our home filled with new memories instead of silent regrets. Weekend mornings became sacred. We traveled to places we had postponed for over a decade. We celebrated small victories, ordinary afternoons, and simple conversations. I learned that happiness isn't built through grand gestures, but through consistent attention to the people who quietly love us every single day. Then on another sunny Saturday morning, much like the one when everything changed, I found Mireya sitting beneath the maple tree in our backyard, writing in the new journal I had given her. She closed it as I approached. Instead of feeling curious, I smiled. Some pages are meant to stay private, because trust isn't built by reading every hidden thought. It's built by becoming someone who no longer gives the other person reasons to write about loneliness. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone you love, leave a comment below, and subscribe to Lifeline Vibes. Your support allows these meaningful stories to reach people who may need them today. Special request: comment below with the words, "Love needs time." If you believe the greatest gift we can give someone is our presence, not just our promises. As I watched my wife smile beneath the warm afternoon sun, I realized the greatest treasure I had ever discovered wasn't the hidden diary itself. It was the painful truth it revealed before it was too late to change. Life doesn't always give us second chances, but sometimes, if we're willing to listen with an open heart, it quietly places